All right, Panther fans, how we doing? Uh, we did a couple recaps for the two preseason games last night, and just wanted to kind of give a little bit more of an in-depth look and take into what I saw last night, since it was the first time we saw this team this year. Before we get started, appreciate it. Hit the like button, hit the subscription button, hit the subscription button. This is why I never say it, guys, because I can never say it right. Please subscribe and hit the like button. And check out the website, flyingfluffy.com. A lot of good contents over there, not just hockey, football content, non-sports content, etc. All right. Uh, both games yesterday, they couldn't have been any more different from each other if you tried. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the lineup for game one, and I'm going to go over what I saw. There was a bunch of stuff that I left out last night. So let's get to the lineup for game one. All right. So first game was Bubba Brewski and Matt Guzda as the backup goaltender. The defensive pairs were Ekblad with Forsling, and then you had Gudis and Kierstead, and then Stalin with Kanunen. I think I've got those names right. And then you see the forwards: Stahl, Danisenko, Barkov, Heponiemi, Verhage, Lusterinen, Giles, Balsers, Balby, Hutsko, Lombard, and Schwint. So start off with the goaltending. Bob looked really good in the first period, and then he didn't look so great in the second period. No, it was not terrible. He let in a dribbler and a goal from a bad angle, which we're kind of used to that with Bobrovsky. He makes fantastic saves, and then he gives up bad goal here or there. Uh, I suspect had he played the entire games, he would have only given up those two goals. So he looks fine, looks ready to go. His movement was good. Everything looked good there. Matt Guzda is an absolute monster. I think he's 6'5", I believe. That's what I heard. One of the obviously the younger goaltenders we have in the system. I liked what I saw from him. He moves very, very smoothly. He's a big, huge goaltender. And like I said in the Spencer Knight video earlier today, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Spencer Knight Guzda pairing at some point in the future at goaltender. Defense. Gustav Forsling and Aaron Ekblad are just fine. They were as we would expect them to be. The issues came with Radko Gudas and Matt Kierstead, so we'll get on that a little bit later. And then Kanunen and Shalin were the bottom pair. And I liked how they played, especially Shalin. Now, Shalin is on the roster in terms of against being held against the cap. Kanunen is not. I don't suppose that he's going to be making the top six. I don't know what situation with Shalin is going to be, and that might have to do with if Kierstead can make the team. Kierstead and Gudis had 3 penalties in the first period, and that's not a huge concern. I think Gudis is who he is, and I think we, can expect him to continue to be who he is. Kierstead's bit of an enigma because he came up a couple of years ago, straight out of college, looked really good for the month he was up. And then last year didn't look good. And then yesterday was kind of a mixed bag. There were 2 times he was boxing his man out and trying to clear his man out of the crease, and the puck went in the back of the net. He doesn't necessarily look bad, but he just tends to be in the wrong place at the wrong time too often, which is never a good look for a defenseman. Certainly, I don't see him at number 6. He's going to be somewhere 7 or 8, I would believe, depending on what we can get out of Lucas Carlson if he gets a chance to see the ice, because Carlson did not get on the ice yesterday. And in the second game, I'll skip to the second game just for a second because I forgot about it in the recap yesterday. Del Zotto played in the second game, and I actually thought he looked pretty good. I thought he looked better than Kierstead or Stahl, to be honest with you. I would have no problem if he continues to play that well with him competing for, 6 or even 7D on this roster. He looked pretty decent. Now, in terms of I just lost my I lost my screenshot. Hold on a second. Okay. In terms of the forwards, let's go with the good. Kai Schwint got a goal. Okay. And excuse me. For the top line was Verhage with Barkov and Balsers. Barkov won the game as overtime was expiring. He looks just fine, good to go. Verhage looks as you would expect him to be in a preseason game. Balsers didn't really ping to me. I think that's a bit of a stretch for him at the top. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. Ryan Lombard looks like he's absolutely shot out of a cannon and looks completely ready to go. I saw Hutsko get a little bit of power play time. The power play did not look all that great. Yanasenko and Hapaniemi look like they always look when they come up. You're waiting for them to do something that justifies their high draft status. Time may be running out on those two kids. They don't look bad. They just don't do anything. Bowley had one good, memorable play. Patrick Giles is an absolute monster on skates. I don't think he's ready just yet, but he may develop into one of the first call ups at some point. And that leaves you with Eric Stahl, who was part of a goal that we gave up. The replay wasn't friendly in terms of trying to see what exactly happened on the play. The broadcast last night was not top notch. So, from the looks of it, what we saw Stahl facing his guy in the zone, being behind him, and the puck being in the back of the net. We really didn't get a good look at what preceded that. And here's the thing with Stahl. As you might have noticed, I've already kind of picked him as the guy I'm going to bitch about. It's not necessarily him personally. My concern is looking at the salary cap issue that we have being 375,000, I think, over the cap. Looking at the situation we have, my concern is that Coach Maurice is going to get it in his head that Stahl can replace Lufterainen. Lufterainen's making 1.5 million. So if you're any good at math, with Stahl getting a minimum deal of 800,000, we could get a decent return for Lufterainen, put Stahl in, and fix our cap situation. I'm very concerned about that, which is why I'm happy to report that the first goal we got was an absolute beautiful goal from E2 Lufterainen. He got free. He did a between the legs move, and then the puck upper corner where the goalie couldn't get to. It was a beautiful goal. And although Coach Maurice did not mention him by name in the post game, Maurice talked about some of his excitement, including some of the younger players. So I'm crossing my fingers that Eetu Luosterainen is going to show him enough to send Stahl packing, and for him to tell Zito, whatever you're going to do to fix the cap needs to be something different. But until that happens, because we've heard Maurice say that he's going to give, that Stahl has a genuine chance to make the team. My concern there is that it would be a terrible, terrible mistake, in my opinion, and bad asset management if we got rid of Luosterainen and kept Eric Stahl, who was 37 years old, did not play last year, and he didn't look terrible. My vision is I'm biased. I'm not gonna lie, right? I've had a few people that say he looked okay. I've seen a few people say he looked pretty bad. There were definitely a couple times I saw him struggling to keep up with the play coming back into the zone, where you're not going to see that with Luosterainen. He's a young, speedy kid. Hopefully, I know Maurice has his penchant for loving veterans. Hopefully, that doesn't cost us Luosterainen, because that would be just a terrible move. I know that he struggled in the faceoff circle last year. Then let Cousins play 4C. And I'm going to tell you where I would like to see Luosterainen get a shot, and why the hell not. In my season preview, when I made a lineup, I did it under the possible assumption that we did not have Patrick Hornquist. So the lineup was a little bit different than you might think. But I pegged Luosterainen to be at two at the on the second line at left wing. Um, Now I know he's a lefty, so I don't know if he'd really be able to play up there on that right wing with Barkov. But Balsers didn't bring me anything. Being on the top line is a bit of a stretch for Balsers, in my opinion. Um, I know some people think Lefty is going to make it up there. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes when we get to the second game. But Eetu Luosterainen has just got too good of a skill set at a young age and a cheap enough price to be even considering getting rid of him. So I'm hopeful that I'm just a little bit concerned over nothing there, and that coach sees what a lot of us see and he finds him a spot on the roster. All right, I'm going to move on to the second game now. Let me bring this up. My voice is gone because I just, right before I came here, I recorded the audio part for the week, for the game one intro. It's a musical number. And so my voice is done. My voice is done right now. All right. And it's there. This is the game two lineup. Okay. Spencer Knight and Alex Lyon. And then the defensive pairs were Brandon Montour with Mark Stahl. And to be honest with you, I believe it was Alsher and Naus, and then Delzato and Ludwig. I'm honestly not sure because it was four numbers I didn't recognize. What I do remember is number 44 is not number 44. And what I mean by that is Alsher is not Gabranson. He was on the bad end of multiple plays last night. He's just a kid. That's fine. He's got time to develop. Evan Naus, I've heard a few people say that they like him. I'm still trying to get past the number 52 on the jersey. So cut me some slack there. Brandon Montour and Mark Stahl. Again, Mark Stahl played okay. He looked decent. But the first goal of the game was a bad clearing attempt by him that went right onto a Predator stick and in the back of the net. Stahl's been a consistently good defenseman, just like Gudis. I'm not going to let one game get me all, worried and concerned there. I know some people aren't a fan of Brandon Montour being on the second pair, but this tells me that in the first game, if your top pair was Ekblad and Forsling, the second game, the top pair was Montour and Stahl. That tells me that's what coach is thinking for the second pairing. I would really, 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 really like to see Lucas Carlson get a shot on that second pair next to Brandon Montour, because Montour and Carlson played together for a hot minute last year and they were good together. It's a good combination. It frees Montour up to be a little bit more offensive. Carlson's a good, solid stay-at-home defenseman. He doesn't do anything stupid. He's got a little bit of offensive upside. And again, we were playing, look, the kids, right? Alsher and Naus and Ludwig, who Ludwig didn't seem to pop too much. I know he at least had one penalty. So some of those guys, obviously, they're not going to be on the team. I'm looking to see what's going to happen Thursday night. We'll see who's in the lineup Thursday night. Hopefully, Lucas Carlson gets on the ice. Now, in terms of the forwards, your top line was Tkachuk with Reinhart and Sam Bennett. Okay, and then the rest of you guys, you had Colin White, Anton Lundell, Nick Cousins, Davies, Tierney, Lefty, Arnsby, and Sandis Vilmanis. All right, so I'm going to stop this share and let me get back over here so I can look every time I do that. All right. So, all right, we talked about the defense there. Let's go to the forwards. The top line, they look like you would expect them to look. They didn't score any goals. That's going to come. Bennett looked like himself. Tkachuk looked like, fine. He was starting stuff with guys here or there. It's the first game. Nobody's going full speed. I'm sure that that's going to be fine. I'm not sure that that's the line that I want from what I saw last night, the line that I want is Lundell with Nick Cousins and Reinhardt there, because we know that Lundell and Reinhardt have chemistry, and it certainly appears as though Cousins and Lundell have some chemistry. Lundell, like Lombard, looks like he got shot out of a cannon. He is ready to go. And with his playmaking ability and his speed and his tenacity and aggressiveness, you couple that with Cousins and Reinhardt's hand-eye coordination and his abilities, that would be a second line on a lot of teams. Okay. Maybe not, and you may be looking at me when I say Cousins, but Lundell is going to be one of those guys that makes everybody around him look better or play better. Colin White last night was on Lundell's wing. He looked good. He looked good. If we went with that, if we went with that third line of White, Lundell, and Cousins, I think people would complain about it at first, but then be pleasantly surprised. I, in my season preview, kind of thought White deserved an opportunity on the top line, and that may still happen. He's a good player. He was drafted high for a reason. It hasn't panned out, but that's what they said about Bennett also. I know they're not the same kind of player, but um, he's going to be a good player for us. Now, the other guys, Mayhew, Davies, Arnsby, Vilmanis, they didn't really pop a whole lot. Obviously, we didn't score any goals in the second game. There was not a lot of energy, especially in the third period. Was not a lot of energy. Chris Tierney did pop a couple times. I noticed him a little bit. Didn't make anything happen, but he looks just like he looked in the film that I watched. And who would I leave out here? Left cheek, because I know that there's a few people that think that he has an opportunity to make the team, and some people were telling me he needs to be the guy in the top line. He certainly has. He looks like a bigger guy. I'm not sure what his size is, so I don't want to speak out of line. But he looks sturdy. We'll start there. It's not like when you look at Heponiemi, where you got, why's that guy on the ice? He's so small. Lefshy looks the part. Is he going to get an opportunity with this coach? I'm not so sure. He didn't do anything last night. Nobody really in the second game did anything to really stand out and pop at you, because nobody scored. When you lose 4-0, there's not going to be a tremendous amount to talk about in terms of individual performances. I'm hoping he sticks around long enough to get, you know, enough of a chance. And we'll see how that pans out. In terms of the goaltending, Spencer Knight, wanted to make sure I got this in because I forgot about it last night. He definitely, clearly worked on his puck handling skills. There were 2 or 3 times last night where he handled the puck confidently, moved it quickly and accurately, and I feel a whole lot better. And he probably knew he was fixing to get paid, right? Right? He might have been in a really good mood last night because he was fixing to get 13.5 million. Did you add it up? 12? Yeah. $13.5 million he made himself today with that contract. So he was feeling good last night. He looked pretty good. He gave up the one. Lyon came in and gave up the final 3 goals. And no one like he looked terrible. Um, I don't really recall anything being really a bad goal. We just, especially in the third period, the team looked like completely flat. And Coach Maurice, he didn't say it specifically, but he did talk about in his post game again about how, look, especially for some of these younger players, that Coach really worked them hard, hard, hard for 4 days straight at camp, and then they played yesterday. So he seemed to not really. He probably recognized there wasn't a lot of energy in that third period, but I think that kind of explains it. And most of those kids, especially in the second game, most of those kids, he already said, a lot of people going back to juniors. He brought up how some of these kids are 2-3 years away from playing in the NHL. So as a team and a score and everything, and yeah, you can't really take too much from it. So what I did take away from things, um, I need to see more from Mark Stahl. He looked decent. He didn't look terrible. He made the one mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, and I'm not going to judge him for that. Ekblad Forsling looked fine. Gudis, I'm not worried about it. He's not going to suddenly suck. Gudis is who he is. He's going to be where he is fine. I understand the concern about Montour and who's going to be there, and I'm just going to pound the freaking drum for Lucas Carlson until it happens. I hope it does. I would personally rather see Carlson with Montour and then Stahl with Gudis, but don't count out Delzato. He looked good. He looked quick last night. Quick for a defenseman. He was very smart with the puck. He seemed to be in the right place at the right time, and he seems motivated and energetic to kind of make a second go at a career here. He's another guy that is in the AHL. His money's not counting against the cap. So Eric Stahl, Delzato, either one of those two guys, if they make the team, somebody has to go, which is why I was concerned earlier about Eetu Luostarinen. Hornquist did not play last night, and that's another piece of the puzzle there. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money we're playing him, and I'm hoping that it was just a matter of wanting to see the other kids, and that coach hasn't penciled in, on that fourth line there. That's what I'm hopeful for. But if we end up in the position of having to choose between Eetu Luostarinen and Patrick Hornquist, if you ask me, and if you say one of them has to go to make room for the cap, I would keep Eetu Luostarinen. As much as I like Patrick Hornquist and what he brings to the team, you have to think long term. And especially, we just gave up a whole bunch of the cap space we were fixing to get to Spencer Knight, right? Next year's cap space is not terrible. It's not like it is now, but we just gave 85% of the annual cap hit that we gain next year. We just gave it to Spencer Knight, which I'm fine with. And again, that's going to continue to mean we need good young players to play on cheap contracts. And I would much rather keep Eetu Luostarinen if it costs us Hornquist than have Eric Stahl cost us Luostarinen, but we keep Hornquist. Luostarinen needs to be kept. After the goal I saw last night, after how we saw him play last year at his age and his ability to move up and down the lineup, should we need somebody? I love Patrick Hornquist, don't get me wrong, but we'll have to see how that goes. The writing might be on the wall there. We'll know Thursday. We'll know Thursday. But other than that, if I had to put together a lineup right now, I mean, what the hell? We're already here. If I had to put together a lineup right now, and I'm probably going to leave somebody out. So I'm going to work for Barkov, for Hagee, and White. And then Kachuk with Bennett and Luostarinen. Lundell with Reinhart and Cousins. And then what the hell? You got Balsers left, Lombard, and let Patrick Hornquist center the fourth line. I'm sure I left somebody out there, but maybe I didn't. I'm not so sure. But I would rather see Luostarinen. Not that opinion has not changed. I had that opinion in my season preview that Luostarinen should get a shot at wing if we're not going to use him at 4C. That hasn't changed, not after what I saw last night. So, all right. I'm sure I'm leaving something out, but that's all my voice has. Now, in terms of Thursday, Panthers play Thursday night. The Dolphins play Thursday night. I said this in the recap last night. I'm going to keep one eye on the Panthers, obviously, but I'm going to watch the Dolphin game because it's a regular season big game, and the Panthers is preseason. I'm sure I'll have something. If nothing else, I'm sure Stu's going to watch the whole game Thursday, and then we'll have a review out Friday morning. It depends on when the game, how everything goes. So we will have coverage of that game. It just most likely is not going to be a standard recap on Thursday. And then other than that, we'll have more content as we go. I believe Stu and I are going to have, we've been trying to get together on a video where he's going to respond to my picks for the Panthers, my prediction. We've been trying to get together on that. Hopefully tomorrow we're going to be able to put that out. And then I'm going to give my voice a rest the rest of the day. I got articles to write for the website, flyingfluffy.com. I write over there. We've got a few other writers. We've got a few people that are going to be making videos for this channel as well. It's not just hockey and Panthers. It's not just Dolphins. It's full NFL coverage as well. It's not a lot of writing right now because everybody's getting there, everybody's getting into the flow. And as the longer we go, the more we'll be doing. But I've been keeping up pretty good with it. So check it out. It's flyingfluffy.com. It's a very, very easy to navigate website. It's basically a blog style type of thing. There's also non-sports stories there. My son Kyle writes a weekly article. I've done at least one, maybe two non-sports stories, and there'll be more of that coming, especially if my voice gives out on me. That's going to be my way of communication. All right, everybody. I appreciate all the support. That does it for today, unless something else happens, and I will see you guys tomorrow.